Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back. This is Abdul Basit. I hope that everything is all right with you. Today I'm here with the critical analysis of the part 1 of Gulliver's Travels. Well, Gulliver's Travels is a book that consists of 4 parts because Gulliver goes on 4 different voyages, and this book consists of 4 parts. And today in this video I'll be talking about the part 1 and the first 4 chapters of the part 1 of the book. Well, Gulliver's Travels is a satirical work. It is a social satire, and because of the bitter satire that has been used by Jonathan Swift, it has also been known as a misanthropic piece of literature. Therefore, we need to know what actually satire is. So first of all, I'll begin with the definition of satire. But before starting the topic, I would like to request, please, if you are not one of my subscribers, do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Let's start with the definition of satire. What is satire? Well, satire is a literary genre that is intended to criticize, ridicule, and expose the vices, follies, and stupidities of people in a particular social and political context. This is one definition of satire. Well, the other definition is satire is also a literary technique that is used in order to point out the vices of people with the help of humor, irony, exaggeration, hyperbole, and ridicule. Alright, so first of all, satire is a literary genre. Any piece of literature in which satire is used, it can be called a satirical work. Therefore, it is a literary genre. On the other side, satire is a literary technique that is used in order to bring about the follies, the vices, the drawbacks of people. Well, the purpose of satire is to make people recognize their weakness for the purpose of reformation. Satire doesn't mean only to condemn, it basically aims at moralizing people. The basic purpose of satire is to reform people. The basic purpose of satire is to bring about their follies, is to make them recognize their vices, and after the recognition of their vices, the basic aim of satire is the reformation of the people, the moralizing of the people. Well, there are 2 basic types of satire. Okay, the first one is Horatian satire. Horatian satire is more witty and tolerant. It is mild in nature. The name has been taken from a Roman satirist, Horace. He wrote mild satires. The second type is Juvenalian satire. Juvenalian satire is more angry and personal, attempting to produce anger in the reader. It is pungent and bitter in nature. This type of satire has been named after another Roman satirist, Juvenal. Okay, so there are 2 basic types of satire. Well, now we have learnt the definition, the types, and the purpose of satire. We'll move to the summary and analysis of part 1, A Voyage to Lilliput. Chapter 1. In this opening chapter, a brief account of the family background and the early life of Lemuel has been given. He is the narrator in this novel. He was the third of the 5 sons of a small landowner in Nottinghamshire. As an adult, he applied himself closely to his studies. He also became an apprentice to an eminent surgeon in London. He also studied medicine in Leiden. He went on a couple of voyages after returning from his medical studies. Traveling was his ambition. He married a girl called Mary, who was the daughter of Hosier. Mary brought him a fairly good dowry. Gulliver got a surgeon's job on a ship called Antelope, which was to make a voyage to the South Sea on 14th May 1699. At first, the voyage seemed to be comfortable, but soon afterwards it was overtaken by a terrible storm, and it got wrecked. Most of the sailors perished in the sea, but Gulliver was able to swim ashore. When he reached ashore, he fell asleep because he was exhausted. Well, in the first chapter, we have been told that Gulliver got a job of a surgeon on a ship, and the name of the ship was Antelope. When they set off on their voyage was comfortable at the beginning, but afterwards a terrible storm occurred and the ship got wrecked, and Gulliver was able to swim ashore and he got survived. After several hours, when Gulliver woke up, he found himself bound with chains. He saw that he was surrounded by a crowd of human creatures who were just 6 inches in height. They were carrying bows and were throwing arrows at him, causing him a good deal of pain. They served him with food and arranged some means of transportation to transport him to the metropolis where the king was waiting. A vein of humor runs through the whole of the opening chapter. The very idea that there are human beings only 6 inches high is funny. Well, this is a funny idea that there are the human beings of 6 inches. We know of pygmies and dwarfs among human beings, but no dwarf or pygmy is just 6 inches high. The contrast between a human being of normal stature like Gulliver and the inhabitants of Lilliput is very amusing. Similarly, the devices by which he is transported to the metropolis are also amusing. It takes 900 Lilliputians 3 hours to raise Gulliver to the level of a huge carriage by which he is to be carried to the royal court. So it's a funny thing that 900 Lilliputians raised Gulliver in 3 hours. But even more amusing is the manner in which Gulliver is fed. Several ladders are applied to his sides, and about 100 Lilliputians climb up those ladders in order to carry baskets full of meat and drink and put them close to his mouth. At the arrival of Gulliver in the metropolis, the emperor came on horseback to take a good look at Gulliver and talk to him if possible. The emperor surveyed Gulliver with great admiration for his huge stature. The empress and the young princes and princesses sat down in their chairs at a safe distance from Gulliver in order to look at the marvelous giant. Well, just imagine a 6 inches high human being who is the emperor is coming on the horseback, and he is trying to observe a giant like Gulliver. Well, you can just imagine this funny scene. Meantime, a huge crowd gathered to take a look at him. Many of them started throwing arrows at him, and one arrow narrowly missed one of his eyes. Gulliver seized some of the Lilliputians out of that mob and could have crushed them, but he restrained himself from doing so. On that, he was greatly appreciated for his leniency. Well, when the Lilliputians were throwing arrows at him, Gulliver got angry and he caught some of the Lilliputians in his hand, and he could have crushed them, but he didn't do so. He showed mercy, he showed leniency, and his leniency was greatly appreciated by the Lilliputians. Arrangements were made for Gulliver's residence. He was also taught the language of Lilliputians, and in about 3 weeks' time he had learned enough of the language to communicate with the emperor and a few others. Gulliver was thoroughly searched, and all his belongings, including his sword and pistol, were taken into possession except his spectacles. Gulliver was also given the name of Man Mountain by the Lilliputians. Okay, this is something that you need to remember. The name that was given to Gulliver by the Lilliputian was Man Mountain. Comic elements are also present in this chapter. Gulliver is served with food on vehicles. 20 vehicles filled with meat make hardly 2 or 3 mouthfuls for Gulliver. Similarly, 10 vessels full of liquor could make a single draught for him. You can just imagine, 10 vessels full of liquor could make a single draught for him, and 20 vehicles filled with meat could hardly make 2 or 3 mouthfuls for Gulliver. Due to this, the Lilliputians feared that it may cause a famine in the country. Chapter 3. Gulliver's gentleness and good behavior won him favor of the emperor, and he started making petitions for his release from chains. He also had made progress in speaking and understanding the language of the Lilliputians. Now he was also allowed to attend the courtly activities, which were very amusing for him. The activities include rope dancing and leaping over or creeping under sticks. Different officials used to show their skills in rope dancing. Well, it was the tradition of the Lilliputians to dance on a rope in order to show their skills. Flimnap, the treasurer, was required to dance on a tight rope and to show his superiority to others in this respect. Similarly, Reldressel, who was the principal secretary for private affairs, was also required to show similar skills. Flimnap is the caricature of Sir Robert Walpole, who was the Prime Minister of England from 1715 to 1717, and then again from 1721 to 1742. Dancing on the tightrope symbolizes Walpole's skill in parliamentary tactics and political intrigues. Well, Gulliver's Travels is also an allegory. Okay, well, an allegory is a story that has double meanings. Okay, meanings on the surface and the hidden meanings. All right, well, if we look at the character of Flimnap, he symbolizes Sir Robert Walpole, who had been the Prime Minister of England for 2 times, and he was famous for his political intrigues and parliamentary tactics. So Flimnap is the caricature of Sir Robert Walpole. Okay, so this is the underlined meanings of the character of Flimnap. Similarly, Reldressel represents Lord Carteret, who was appointed by Walpole to the office of Lord Lieutenant of Ireland. Okay, well, Gulliver was also released on certain conditions because he was previously requesting for his release. So now he was released on certain conditions. Chapter 4. After being released, Gulliver was permitted to go around the metropolis. Mildando was the metropolis actually. A proclamation was made to warn people that they should stay away from Gulliver's route in order to avoid being crushed. Gulliver goes around the metropolis and observes the buildings and the markets that were well stocked. He was also able to catch a glimpse of the empress and the young princes and princesses. The empress smiled very graciously upon Gulliver and offered her hand to Gulliver to kiss it. Well, you can just imagine, okay, a lady of 6 inches height is offering her hand to Gulliver. Well, you can just imagine how would he be able to kiss her hand, since it is a tradition, it is the part of the English culture that whenever they need to pay respect to the princess, or when they need to pay respect to any woman who is on a high place, they actually kiss her hand, okay, in order to pay respect. So here the empress is also offering her hand to Gulliver to make him kiss her hand, okay. That is a tradition, that is the part of culture. But what is funny here, the funny thing here is that how Gulliver would be able to kiss the hand of a 6 inches high woman. A fortnight later, Gulliver meets Reldresal, who tells him about the affairs of the state. He tells him about the danger of an invasion by a foreign power. He also tells him that the country is divided into 2 parties. The 2 parties were known as Big Endians and Little Endians. Besides, there was a conflict between those who wore high-heeled shoes and those who wore low-heeled shoes. The external danger was from the island of Blefusc, which was believed to be the other great empire in the universe and which was as large and powerful as Lilliput. Reldresal informs Gulliver that the Emperor of Blefusc has assembled a huge fleet of ships to invade Lilliput. After listening to the whole account, Gulliver promised his full support to the Emperor of Lilliput. Big Endians and Little Endians represent Protestant and Catholic sects. Well, if we dig deep and if we look at the underlined meanings, the Big Endians and Little Endians represent Protestant and Catholic sects that are the most important or the prominent sects in Christianity. Swift has ridiculed the hair-splitting theological disputes. Well, during Swift's time, there had been a lot of theological disputes. There were a lot of disputes regarding their religion. And Swift has ridiculed, Swift has mocked, Swift has made fun of those hair-splitting theological disputes. The high heels and low heels refer to the political parties of England at that time. Okay, well, the high heels and the low heels refer to the political parties of England and at that time. And at that time, there were 2 parties, 2 political parties, the Whigs and Tories. Okay, and there were a lot of political conflict between these 2 parties. And Swift has also ridiculed this political dispute of the political parties of England at that time. Blefusc stands for France, which, according to Lilliputians, is the only other country in the universe. Okay, so these are the underlined meanings, these are the hidden meanings, these are the allegorical meanings. Okay, In these 4 chapters, we have come to know the identity of Gulliver, okay, and we have also been introduced to a creature that is 6 inches high, and we have been introduced to the place where Gulliver reaches, and the name of that place is Lilliput. Okay, and there are a lot of political and social conflicts out there, and these social and political and religious conflicts refer to the conflicts that occurred in England during Jonathan Swift's life. So this was all about this video. I hope that you have got the complete understanding of these 4 chapters of part 1 of Gulliver's Travels. If it is so, please let me know in the comments, and if you have any confusion regarding this, you can also ask questions without any hesitation. Thank you very much for watching the video. Bye bye, take care.